Agenda.
Back to the agenda. We've got awesome resources in this committee in terms of the people who participate in this committee being really in the mix. Today we have Alexandra, Rene from ALL MAVEN. John is coordinating. I'm not sure how much of the presentation he's going to share, but also Kevin Clemons. And you know Kevin's spoken to our committee a few times about various topics, including password safety. And they're going to talk today about using collaboration tools to sort through the chaos and confusion. So we'll let you take it away, Alex and Kevin.
Right. Morning, everybody. Hopefully you've all had a excellent transition over from working in the office to working from home in a nice, safe way. I'm Kevin with AU Technology Solutions, as you know, managed service provider, IT services, that IT guy that didn't fix the microphone on Josh's computer. So I've got a presentation for you guys. It's going to go over some of the tools that my company's been using, which are specifically from Microsoft. So sorry, John, but I think that they are some excellent tools and something that can help some of you guys really gain some control over your businesses while you're in this unstable time. All right. So give me a moment while I share my screen here. I'm going to try and keep it simple and straight and not too dry. All right, guys? All right, can everybody see my screen? Just give me a thumbs up. All right, perfect. All right, so today we're going to be talking about how to implement working from home safely. There's a lot of businesses, well, I guess everybody's doing it now in some form or fashion, unless you're a essential business. But for the most part, we all should be doing some form of working from home. Now, there are lots of ways to do it, and there are lots of ways to do it incorrectly. So we're going to talk about one of the ways to do it safely. All right, so when we're talking about working from home, we're going to have a few different sections that we need to really address. You know, what do we need? You know, what is dangerous? What does Microsoft offer? And why would we use Microsoft? And then how can we get these services and tools that I'm going to talk about today? So what do we need? So for your workers to be able to work from home, they're going to need obviously a work-capable device. Usually that's a computer, but depending on your business, that may be an iPad or some form of a tablet. All right. So we need the ability to communicate. That's going to be a webcam. That's going to be a microphone. That's going to be some form of chat. So we've talked about Slack already today. That is an excellent tool that I highly recommend. I use a program called Teams, Microsoft Teams, which is a fantastic tool as well. It's very similar to Slack, but it adds in some extra crucial features that I'm going to be talking about a little bit later today. What else do we need to be able to work from home? We need to have access to our data. That's going to be either provided with a VPN, right? That's going to be a virtual private network. That's where you're at home, you turn on your VPN, and according to your computer, you might as well be in the office. We've got RDP, that's going to be like remote desktop. You're going to remote into your computer in the office, or you'll use a tool like VNC, TeamViewer, or LogMeIn to connect to your computer in the office. So those are a few of the options that we have to address some of the needs that our staff is going to require to be able to perform their jobs. So what we need to talk about is what's dangerous so that we can get the elephant out of the room, okay? So a place for work often has security, and we don't think about it in that sense, but you've got physical security. By having your computers in a central location that's locked at the end of the day, you don't have to worry about somebody breaking, or you have to worry less about someone breaking in and stealing data. Well, you lose that when your workers are working from home, because now their computers are maybe in an unsecure, unsafe environment kind of deal. Then you also have digital security in the sense of antivirus and an IT staff and things like that, okay? Now, in work, you have restrictions. You're gonna have administration preventing users from maybe installing programs that they're not supposed to have on their computers that are unsafe. You're going to have antivirus. You're going to have blocked sites through your firewall so they can't go access terrible sites that are known for downloading viruses and such. And then you also have oversight, meaning if I'm in my office and I'm working, I can't just be on, Pornhub and my boss can walk up behind me and then boom, I'm in trouble. But when they're at home, that's a completely different set of tasks and things that we have to figure out a way how to manage. Okay. And then also a place for work is very communicative, meaning I can be working and I can have a question. I can get up and go walk right over to Andre and ask that question. Okay, there, I got this popped up here. So I can see if you guys are asking me any questions. You can get up and you can go and ask someone questions. You can get extra details on something that you're working on. You can collaborate. When you're working from home, that doesn't exist. Well, it can if you have the correct tools. All right. So what does Microsoft offer? How does Microsoft attempt to, sorry, I knocked the key off my keyboard. Okay, so what does Microsoft offer? How do they attempt to solve these problems? So Windows 10 Enterprise. Many of you maybe have never heard of Windows 10 Enterprise. So it is available through a subscription called Microsoft 365. So Microsoft 365, similar to Office 365, but different, comes with a license for Windows 10 Enterprise. But basically what this is Microsoft is saying we need some way to be able to provide extra protections when people are using their own devices, or if you're going to send someone home to work remotely from a device. So Windows 10 Enterprise is an attempt to solve that problem. It's got a beefed up antivirus. It's got some of the same controls that you would have in an office where you guys have something like Active Directory where you log in with your password that's given to you by your boss. So excellent way to allow people to work from home, but still be in a safe environment. SharePoint. I love SharePoint. What is SharePoint? SharePoint, think of it as your file server that you have in the office that has all of the files that everybody's working off of, so we don't have to worry so much about their individual computers. SharePoint is that, except it's in the cloud, which means right now I can go pull up a PowerPoint that I created for my work environment to present at a Carlsbad chamber event without it actually having been on my computer. That's what SharePoint allows. Another really cool feature of SharePoint is I can work on this file, and then if Andre needs to go in there and update it and add some details, and I'm already working on the file, he can hop in there and work on that file right alongside me at the exact same time. So that's something similar to Google Drive. If you guys have ever worked on Google Drive, you have that ability as well. The only real difference here is I'm working on an actual PowerPoint or an actual Word document or an actual Excel file that's going to be compatible with other people's computers after I'm done. Teams. Now, Teams is somewhat new from Microsoft. It's replaced Skype for Business. And Teams is one of the most fantastic programs I've ever seen. So it's similar to what you guys are already using at the chamber, Slack. So if we take Slack, we take Google Hangouts, we take SharePoint, and we slam all that together into one program, and then we say, hey, you know what? Let's put our phone system in there as well. That is Microsoft Teams. So since you guys have ever met me, my entire phone system is Teams. So right now I have all of my technicians working from home. When our main hotline is called, it cycles through and rings every technician at their home in order until it gets to me. And then I'm the last person at the end of the line to grab that call to make sure it doesn't go to voicemail. But if it does go to voicemail, it then sends that to our support inbox as a transcripted email that we can read and respond to. So it's amazing. It means that my technicians, if their computer shuts down, they can open up their cell phone, pop open the Teams app, and they can take phone calls from there as well. It's very, very versatile, powerful tool. It does screen calls as well. So it's also our Zoom program. So fantastic tool, and it's free right now. So Microsoft is allowing anyone to use it, whether they have Office 365 or not, during this time of crisis, so that people can get their calls through. All right, so why Microsoft? There's a lot of other different tools that you can use that are all out there that will all perform the same. The reason that I like Microsoft is A, the security. It's got some of the best security that you can get for business email. Just amazing. I don't need to worry about spoofed emails. I don't need to worry that you guys might get an email that says it's from Kevin at AU Technology Solutions. Download this secure link and you guys click it and now you have CryptoLocker. That can't happen. I don't have to worry about that with Microsoft. And that is something that is amazing because I see a lot of businesses go through something terrible like that, right? And then it's got customizable security options. So if my technicians are in the office, they have a lot less restrictions that happen. They don't need to do as many extra authentication steps that they would need to do if they were at home. Let's say you leave from Carlsbad and you go up to San Diego or down to San Diego and you try and log into your Microsoft account. The back end will adjust and it will do the math. Is it possible for you to have logged in Carlsbad and then log in San Diego? If it deems that that's not possible, it'll block that login until you do some extra authenticating to ensure that you are who you are. So really powerful and very controllable from an administrative point of view. It's very convenient. I don't have to have about 5 or 6 different programs that I have different passwords for. Using the Microsoft, my email password is the same as my Teams, as my SharePoint, as my web, as my login to my web browser. It's all one easy tool, which means like if the terrible thing happens, one of my employees turns out to not be as good or as safe, or maybe they just aren't at the standard that we need them to be able to be with my business, I don't need to worry about them having access to my client's data for any unusual amount of time. Once I change their Microsoft password, they are not able to log in and access any of those tools which we spoke about. And that's something that businesses have issues with right now. If you've got salespeople and you're concerned about those salespeople communicating with other sales teams and maybe selling off your data or your clients to other people, what do you do about that? What data have they had access to? You don't have any of those real controls when you're operating off of like a VPN and such. This gives us that ability to know what data my technicians, my people have accessed and where they're going and such, and where that data has been going. And then value, Microsoft is super inexpensive. You can get plans with Microsoft as low as $4 per user. So that costs less than a lot of your general mailboxes that you would get from some other service providers, okay? All right, that's it. Let me go take a look at your questions and I'll answer them as best I can. If you guys have more questions, go ahead and start typing them in, okay? All right, so Brett has a question. Oh no, he just really liked it. He did have some negatives. Let me know what those negatives are. I'll let you know if Microsoft has resolved any of those. I know at the beginning, when any new product comes out, there's going to be some bugs and things that need to be worked on. And Microsoft has more than their fair share of nonsense. So Teams, it acts as our VoIP. It is an extra subscription I have to put on my Teams to allow us to do our phone calls. But yes, it is our VoIP tool. VoIP meaning voice over IP, how we communicate with talking to each other and also talking to, I can call someone's cell phone directly from my Teams. Now, when you say you're using the Microsoft web app, it depends. There is the Office 365 web app, and then there is, maybe you have like an Exchange server that's located somewhere in a physical building. That's gonna also have an on-office web app. But I would guess you guys, oh, an Exchange server? Depends on where your Exchange server is set. So it all comes down to the security that has been enabled for that device and where that device is. My gut feeling would say I'm probably not going to be able to secure any hardware equipment that I have as well as Microsoft has. They have a better budget for security and they have a lot more to worry about. So I would always recommend hosting with the service provider that is providing that service. They're generally going to be more secure. So if you got Microsoft stuff, host it with Microsoft, they'll be better. QuickBooks, host it with QuickBooks, they'll be better at it. And is Microsoft 365 more secure than Exchange Server? I would say yes, but that's without me knowing the security of your Exchange server. There's some fringe IT experts that can host your server in a place that is more secure than Microsoft. Just depends. But when you're at that levels of security, I think that's beyond anything that we as our small business owners need to really be worried about. All right. So how can you guys get this stuff? Reach out to your IT guys. If you guys are all going to have an IT department or an IT specialist that you've been working with, reach out to them and tell them, hey, how can I be more secure? Where are the issues that I need to be worried about that I'm not thinking about right now? You got to be proactive with security, because most IT guys are always going to be defaulting to helping you save money. And we need to transition out of that over to how can I be more safe? Because any of these bad things that can happen out there can just be the difference between your business operating right now and your business not operating right now. So get more security involved. If you don't have an IT person, you can reach out to Kevin at AU Technology Solutions. I'm very available, Kevin at AU Technology Solutions or Kevin at AU Techs, or there's my number there, 760-299-4567. Give me a call. I'll answer questions. I'll talk to your IT experts. I'm here to help you guys out during this time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you for all of your expertise. And
thanks for allowing me to speak again, you guys. I always enjoy it.
Thank you. Right now, we're going to transition over to Alex, as she's got the second part of this presentation.
All right. Everybody see that title slide? Fantastic, fantastic. So I'm not really good with time, but I'm going to try to go as fast as I possibly can to cover everything in this presentation. So as Teresa said, and as Kevin did so well, we're trying to get people from chaos and confusion to better collaboration. And so basically what we're going to cover on the journey today is remote challenges for teams, remote work preparation, the tools you'll need to succeed, tips to make it all work, and then Q&A, right? So again, I'll remind everybody, you can use the chat to ask any questions and I will answer them live. You can also use that hand raising thing there, which is great. But just type them in the chat, and I am watching that window on my lovely dual monitors here, so that way you can get that. So before I hop in, I always like to ask a little bit of a question. And so my question for everybody today is, what is the biggest challenge, or what's the biggest issue with working with your team online? So what I would love for anybody to just share quickly, in the chat or raise your hand. Just tell me, what is the biggest issue with working with your team kind of online? I'd like to know kind of what that experience is. Ram, you said the audio is a bit muffled, but it's now better. That's good. Thank you. No one has any challenges working online? Okay, tracking workflow. Yeah, that's a big one. That's probably one of the biggest ones. That's actually, and I have a list of those types of things here. So some of the challenges that we have for teams, one obviously being communication and collaboration, overworking, underworking, and tracking time. That's a big one that addresses your issue there, Kevin. Prioritizing task and time management. We also know the interruptions, right? The kids, the pets, the doorbell rings, your spouse, the lack of tech or understanding of tech, and tech then hiccups, just like you mentioned, Teresa. It's getting everybody up to speed on what to do. And then also that sense of team and community. Isolation is a problem. Cabin fever is a problem. And sometimes we forget about that. And so I tell everybody, I said, have no fear. Great tech is here, right? So with a few pieces of good tech, you can accomplish everything and more and run smoothly. So what does that look like, and what does that take in today's society, in this state of new normal? So the first thing is you got to get your mind right, right? As I say, before you want to start working remotely, you've got to get your mind right. For some people, this is not going to be a walk in the park. It really isn't. You really have to get prepared for remote work. So I strongly encourage you, understand that it's a different environment, right? And that you'll need to adjust. So it's really important, because working online is not the same as working in your office or working remotely, as we like to say. It's a little bit different. So you have to mentally prepare yourself for that adjustment and give yourself time to adjust. Like, don't beat yourself up if things aren't going as planned. It is a transition, so don't throw your computer out the window just yet. You have to realize that the world is changing, and also the standard operations won't necessarily apply. So just, you know, be prepared when you're dealing with other people online that things that you normally would do on the day-to-day, the response rates that you would normally get, some of these things are changing. How people handle their business is changing. And so you need to be aware of that and be patient with that. And then you also want to give yourself an opportunity to learn what kind of remote worker you are and how you thrive. So a lot of people don't take into consideration how they like to work remotely, what things work well for them, what setup works best for them. So you need to really take that time to figure out, well, how do I work best remotely? In my room, in my kitchen? Do I need music in the background? Do I work better at a certain time if I have the option of working at different times? So you gotta kind of figure out what kind of remote worker you are, just like you have to figure out what your different personality types are to do certain jobs, what type of entrepreneur you are. So those are really important things. So give yourself an opportunity to learn what type of remote worker you are and what certain areas work well for you, what will make you thrive. Okay, next thing you do is you got to get your team right. So for a lot of team members, this is a brand new experience. They have no idea what's going on and they don't know what to expect. And this is a big one that I see missed in a lot of teams, especially with the pandemic. Everybody freaked out and then everybody jumped online and there really wasn't a lot of preparation with that. And so for my team has been remote, so I didn't have to prep them for anything, a transition or, hey, this is what our remote day is going to look like, because we had been remote for 7 years. So for us, that was just a state of normal. But for everybody else, this is new and they don't know what's coming next. So you've really got to prep your team for remote work, right? So one of the things you want to do is you want to develop a plan for how your team is going to work remotely, along with schedules and protocols. So if you set the expectation for your team, you're going to have a lot easier time in making that remote transition, because then everybody knows exactly what they're jumping into. Think about having that team meeting saying, all right, guys, we're all going remote. This is what we're going to do these days. This is going to be our schedule. This is going to be our workflow, right? You have to actually set the bar. So that way, when your team jumps into remote, they know exactly what they're doing. You want to provide training or access to training where needed. So everybody's not just a tech savvy person who's got, you know, a webcam and a nice, you know, phone or camera or computer lying around, or knows how to access all these tools. So you need to give your team the training that they need, or show them where to get it, or provide access to those tools. So that's really important. Otherwise, you've got a lot of people who are just going to be stuck, right? Call Kevin, ask him for some help, get whatever you need to get done. So that's really important that you provide training or access to training where needed. You also want to familiarize your staff, if your staff isn't too large, with their unique circumstances. So everybody working remotely, some people have kids, some people have dogs, some people were operating a certain way versus others operating another way. Some people had a sick mother or father at home that maybe they were caring for, or had a person in their home caring for. Maybe they've moved into their home. Maybe they have a kid now home from college, and now all of this stuff is kind of working itself into the mix. So familiarize with your team and their circumstances and what they're going through remotely, so that way you can better adapt and handle their needs and challenges. Ask your team if they have any concerns about working remotely or foreseeable challenges they may have about working remotely. A lot of companies don't even ask that. And it's really important, if you want to really stay connected to your team and show that you care, ask them if they foresee any problems or any challenges, instead of just expecting people to hop on board with your remote strategy, right? People were coming to an office every day for a lot of the time, and now they're at home. Well, if they, like I mentioned, the sick mother or father, maybe they care for an elderly person, and now, you know, they're not going to work, and that maybe that care worker isn't available, or something has changed. You know, they may say, well, you know what, I can work remotely, but I'm really only good for these hours, or please don't schedule staff meetings between 12 and 1. This is where I feed my mother or my father, right? So make sure you connect with your team and ask them if they're going to have any challenges, whether they be personal challenges, technology challenges, time challenges, kid challenges, whatever it may be. Make sure you get connected with them, and then ask them if they have any questions, right? Very simple. Hey, you have any questions? Does all this make sense to you? Do you feel comfortable? If you need to walk them through the process, walk them through the process. That's a great way to get people involved. So that way everybody's running smoothly. So get your mind right, get your team right. Now, after you got your mind right and your team right and everybody's agreed and on the same page, you're ready to charge ahead, as with any other project, then get your tech right. right? So you can minimize your tech problems by having a solid setup that will reduce issues at work. Now, these are recommendations. They are not requirements. These are some of the tools that we use or recommend, but they are not required in order to work remotely. These are just the tools that will make working remotely a lot easier. So the first thing is being hardwired to your internet or cable or Ethernet setup, and with great Wi-Fi. So, you know, I don't have trouble streaming because I'm paying for really expensive internet and I love it, so I don't have any hiccups or issues. And I've got my Ethernet cable hooked directly into that router there, so I don't have to be on Wi-Fi or worry about any connection issues. So if you have good Wi-Fi and you can be hardwired in, that's the best way to go. Right computer. Now, there are lots of versions of right computers. These are just general recommendations, but I think it's easier if you have a nicer computer to get some things done. Recommend something with Core i5 or greater with a solid state drive for faster processing. Right operating system, you want to have that updated version of Windows 10. If not, you're presenting yourself with additional security issues. So please get that latest version of Windows 10 if you're on a PC, or if you're on a Mac, the latest version of Mac OS. My favorite browser is Google Chrome. I love Google Chrome. It completely extends the functionality of all the work that I do. I live and breathe it. I don't even know if I could adjust to another browser at this point for the amount of functionality I get out of Google Chrome, but I do love it because there's so many additional features with it. And then also a webcam and a stand. So I recommend the Logitech C920. That's what I use. That's what I'm on right now. And an external stands. That way you can move your webcam around. If you're like me and you've got dual monitors, you've got a really tall monitor. If you put your webcam on there, it's like looking down from like the spaceship on Earth. And so, you know, that's a really helpful thing. If you have a stand, you can move it around, keep it stabilized. That way you don't have to worry about, you know, anything crazy happening with your camera. For your microphone and stand, recommend the ATR 2100 or the Samsung Q2U USB XLR dynamic microphone. Whew, that's a mouthful. These are just two really great microphones. They're both about 60 to 80 bucks. They're really effective. I use the ATR 2100. John has the Samsung. So these are the two microphones we use to get creative, you know, good audio. I'm going to be ordering one today. I forgot. I have the ATR 2100 on my desk, on my other desk, and I have to steal it for my husband. So we're going to order a second one. Headphones, that will help a lot with feedback if you're in a meeting. If you notice, Kevin's got headphones on right now because he knows it'll be a lot easier, get clearer, crisper sound and less feedback. Good lighting, right? And it's not to make sure you look this good on camera, but you need good lighting so that people can see you. So make sure you're in a space where, if you can have natural light, that's great. Do not be like directly, have a window directly behind you. That'll create some issues. And then dual monitors. So if you can get dual monitors are great because you can watch the chat and then do your presentation. So I can see great stuff in here. Some, like Brett says, he loves the Firefox, and John wants to know who does not have a solid state drive these days. Teresa loves her MacBook Air. And, you know, John says, you know, everybody recommends Google Chrome, but he also loves Firefox. I have actually no aversion to Firefox. It just doesn't have as many features as I like for browsers. So dual monitors are great. If you don't have dual monitors, that's totally fine, but it totally makes things a lot easier being able to move between screens or not have to deal with annoying pop-ups when you're giving a presentation, right? So that's a great setup for working online. So you've got your mind, you've got your team, you got your tools. Now let's get into the software or SaaS section, as I'd say. So this is a suite of tech to help you work better online and solve your biggest challenges. Like Kevin had mentioned, this is the stuff, some of the stuff that we use and we recommend, but there's lots of great options out there like Microsoft Teams. I'm going to cover my favorite tools that I find that work well for a lot of other people. Ram says, Chrome grinds my PC and spawns too many processes. That's funny. Talk to Kevin, have him fix it for you. He can fix anything. He's great. So your most common tools needed. So when it comes to email and document management, G Suite. This is my absolute foundation of everything I need. It's going to help your organization, you know, collaborate via email, doc sheets and slides, which for Microsoft users, which I am also as well, that's going to be your Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. So one of those things is G Suite integrates with almost everything. And it'll smooth out collaboration because you can do it all in the cloud and you can collaborate directly on those documents. You're going to eliminate that back and forth, and you can enjoy features like commenting, chatting, on documents and presentations, shared calendars, and more. And you can get those similar features again in like, Microsoft as well, but I'm definitely prone to G Suite. Google has over, I don't know how many billion users, but they are the #1 email tool in terms of users, how many people have it. So hopping on G Suite eliminates a lot of learning curves for a lot of people because they're already familiar with the platform. So that to me is my great foundation, and it integrates with like everything. Video conferencing. So you're going to want to keep that collaboration, right? We talked about the challenges and communication and collaboration. So video conferencing software, 2 of the tools we use are Zoom and Google Meet. These are 2 of our favorite tools. Obviously, we're on Zoom now. I don't think I need anybody to hear any more about Zoom unless it's what they're updating on their security end. But other than that, obviously, you're not going to lose any time on meetings since you can schedule them remotely with Zoom. And I do like Google Meet because if you're a Google user, it's really easy to hop on a meeting super fast without basically any setup of any kind. You hop on and you click invite someone and you're done, and it can really be that simple. And it is now also, if you hopped onto your Google inbox, if you have Google, if you hopped into Gmail, you might have noticed a box pop up that said Google Meet is now in your Gmail. So now you can just start a meeting right from your email, which is pretty awesome. And then you can bring everything you need to your meeting. So you can bring your presentation, you can bring your documents, you can do things like screen sharing and whiteboard and raise hand and all that kind of good stuff. And this will help keep everyone on the same page. So if you're having these remote meetings, it'll help keep everybody on the same page. And as I said, Google Meet is great for G Suite users with simpler needs, right? Okay, so team communication, you heard Brett and you heard Kevin say it. Slack, man, I'm a slacker. Like, I get my life on Slack. It will help you cut down on your email and provide more efficiency for your organization. So like email, like we cut back by like 50% of our email just by using Slack. And because it allows text message like capabilities with your team members, and it integrates with like everything. I get notifications with Slack, it integrates with G Suite, it integrates with Zoom, just it integrates with everything. And I love cohesion, right? Yeah, Brett, I too detest group emails. It drives me crazy, and nobody wants a 40 email thread, right? Going back to your inbox. So get Slack, it's like essential, or as Kevin said, Microsoft Teams. Get a place where your team can chat all the time without doing the email back and forth. Email should only be for, certain things. And Slack, you can create all the different channels to stay organized. You can share documents. And a lot of people don't know, but Slack is free and it even supports video calling. And it has a desktop application. It's kind of like one of those things that people sort of forget about. It's free, it supports video calling, and it allows people to feel like they're more connected because they've got that instant communication. So it's like email, wait, email, wait, email, ooh, new email, right? So this allows people to feel like they're more connected because you've got that chat going all the time. And again, it supports free video calling, and it's actually pretty smooth. If you've ever tried it, hop into Slack and use the video calling feature. It's pretty fun. I actually use it for my kids because it will pop as a desktop app. It will pop up in front of whatever they're watching or games, and it'll say your mother is calling you when they're on their laptops and computers. So that way, when they're not listening to what I'm saying, I can call them out. Okay, project management. So if you're working online and you are a team, you've got to have a plan, and you got to have a place to execute that plan and monitor that plan. One of the challenges Kevin had mentioned was workflow, and I mentioned overworking, underworking, prioritization of tasks, and getting stuff done. So it's really good, and it doesn't even matter what industry you're in, because everybody needs to manage their projects in some respect. It doesn't matter if you are a service-based business, manufacturing. If you've got projects you need to accomplish and you have timelines and deadlines, get a project management tool. I recommend Basecamp, Aura, Trello, or Asana. They all have different features, but they'll allow you to manage projects more cohesively, set up tasks, assign things to different team members, and set deadlines so that you know when work is getting done. I use Aura for our team, and the time tracking is so cohesive. I know if they spent 5 minutes designing a widget or whatever on whatever project I have them assigned to. It's really great. So some project management tools will offer time tracking features, which can assess how often your team is actually working and what they're working on, as opposed to just clocking in and clocking out. That's one of the things I like about Aura. And I also say, if you can, add the project management tool Amazing Marvin to the mix to keep your personal and business day organized. This is a tool that will organize your day-to-day and your business day. It was built by someone with ADHD. It has an amazing feature set of helping you get work done. And it's the only tool that I've been able to stick with for a really, really long time for being an ADHD and all over the place. It has things like Pomodoro timers. It'll group all your tiny tasks together, like what are all my 5-minute tasks versus what are all my 1-hour tasks. If you have an hour of free time, it'll do something like, these are all the things you can get done if you have 1 hour, right? So less work on your brain. It's phenomenal and amazing. If you go to AppSumo, you can sign up for it for free. Otherwise, it's like $8 or $12 a month. Really affordable. I like got my life back when I got that tool. I can't live without it. Okay. Lastly, the end of our presentation, here's some tips to make it all work, right? So it's going to take more than technology to ensure your remote work life stays in balance. So some things are tech and some things are not tech, but let me cover the couple tech tips that you're going to need. So for the technology challenged, spend some time on YouTube getting familiar with technology. If you're not used to using this, like anything else you have to learn, you've got to study it, right? So take some time out to actually study the technology that you're using. If you're using a particular type of software, use their help desk and their video tutorials if available. Go through and watch those 2- and 3-minute videos that they have available. It's really helpful if you can familiarize yourself with the stuff you're going to be using on a daily basis. Play with your technology to make sure you're more comfortable with it. So when you have some free time, just test it out and play with it. And before you hop on meetings, as I always say, always test your tech. We test all our technology before hopping onto this meeting so we can have a seamless presentation. And so far, that's been the case, so I'm happy with that. And if you need help, ask someone for help. Really important. So ask someone for help if you need help, and then you don't have to worry about your so many tech issues. For interruptions and distractions, starting with the children. I've got 3 boys under the age of 10. That has a lot of gross stuff, farts, and interruptions, right? So what you need to do is, just like you prepared a schedule and set expectations for your team, you need to prepare a schedule for your kids so they know what to expect during your work. A lot of parents, we're just kind of throwing it in the mix and, you know, going as best we can and trying to get them in their online learning. But set up a schedule for your day so that way your kids are set up and ready to work. Flex their independence. Give them ways to get their own snacks, drinks, toys, whatever. You can reduce the amount of interactions if you don't have to feed them, clothe them, whatever. Now, obviously, if you have babies, that's a completely different story. If you have infants, but if you have kids that are like 4, 5, 6, whatever, and up, then make the things that they would need during the 1 hour that you have that meeting and can't be interrupted accessible to them. Have activities planned. Keep them busy. If they have one activity, have them where they can move to something else to the next activity. And then develop a code system for them to communicate with you if you need help, right? And so depending on how old they are will depend on that communication system. My kids already know when mommy's in a meeting, we don't interrupt. Well, 2 out of 3. 1 is really struggling for this, been struggling with this for years. But 2 out of 3 of my kids know how to communicate with me. My son knows how to creep into the room and basically stay out of the camera angle so that he's not in my meeting. And he will make like we'll do like some hand motions. This is a good time to learn sign language, right? Develop a code system with you so that they can communicate with you if they do need help and you do happen to be in a meeting. Luckily, people are really understanding about this given the circumstances, but it's a great way to just avoid any issues. The pets, so dogs, cats, anything that makes noise or gets in your way, if you can, move them outside, garage, or a room. That's obviously the first solution. If you have barkers, small dogs, anything moves and they bark, eliminate where they can see a lot of different things and add a sign outside to let people know if they can or cannot ring your doorbell if you have dog barkers. So this is a really simple thing that just says, hey, USPS guy, text me when you're here, or don't ring the doorbell, or just leave the package. You can actually do this in Amazon delivery. You can give the delivery person instructions. If you've got a Ring doorbell, this is great, you know, because then you can actually see and talk to that person and let them know, hey, you know, this is going on and whatnot. Get your pet some treats. You know, people are a lot, you know, the animals are a lot less anxious if they're eating doggy bones, and you know, your cats have something to do. And so that's a really great thing. The other thing you can do is leash them next to you and introduce them to your team. So pets are a great part of team morale. You know, as you probably heard in one of my presentations, things with animals get 33% more clicks than other things. The internet is for cats and porn. We already know that, right? So feel free to have your pets involved in there if you want, because it's also great camaraderie for a team. That really helps people introducing their pets and so forth. So those are some great tips for the pets. Now for your community connection, right? We want to fight the isolation factor. That's really important. So if you have a team, it struggles to feel warm in the online environment. So a couple things you can do is keep your team updated regularly, communicate regularly, message regularly, email, update regularly. Those are really important things so everybody knows what's going on. If you can, incorporate gamification into your life. So gamification basically just means making games out of the things you do. How many people can get the most sales calls this week? How many people can finish their work in X amount of time? Create different challenges. They don't even have to be like sales or work or revenue related, but create a challenge. All right, who can come up with the funniest thing that happened this week with their kids? So incorporate gamification so that way people feel like they are connected to something. Create ways to show your appreciation. So before you had office parties and other types of things, digital gift cards are great. Like let your team know, like, hey, I'm here, I care about you. Take breaks and incorporate them into your schedule. That's really important because we tend to overwork or underwork or too much work and whatnot. So make sure that you emphasize those breaks to your team and let them know, hey, breaks are important, take deep breaths. Schedule check-ins. This is a hard time for people emotionally. You know, some people, they can't do the remote life and unfortunately commit to things like suicide, depression. You're gonna see some of these cabin fever, right? So check in with your team and ask them, how are you doing emotionally? Actually, there's a startup company that actually has a check-in app for that. I can't remember the name, and maybe I'll send it out so we can get it out to you. But it literally will check in on the people and say, how are you doing emotionally today? It's an emotional check-in app. So check in with your team so that way you can know what's going on in their life, any challenges they're facing, or problems they have. Celebrate with them. Remember to acknowledge birthdays. If somebody's kid had a milestone, the day the baby walked, these are all just wonderful things. Encourage the sharing of some of the personal information and then celebrate as a team as a whole. The last thing, use mail, right? A lot of people have forgotten that the postal service still works. You can still send gifts, presents, cards, packets of information, and all of those things help with the community connection. So those are some really great tips. And you know, the remote success is quite simple, really. So you got to just have the right mindset, right expectations, great pep, and great tools, and that will get you to where you need to be, from the chaos and confusion to complete collaboration, as I now have with my team.
Thank you so much, Alex.